Bluff Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Today is Wednesday, October 5th. It is 6:01 p.m. We're going to begin this meeting virtually. We'll start with attendance from the Planning and Zoning Commission. This is Amanda Podmore.
Marcia Haydenfeld.
Melissa Egge.
Ed Dobson.
All right. And from Town Council?
Luann Hook.
Thank you, Luann. And welcome to everybody that is joining us this evening. Okay, we're going to start with approval from the meeting minutes from our regular meeting on September 21st. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Thanks to folks for looking at these in advance. I think we had a couple of comments. Scroll down. Marcia added clarification. Do you want to speak to your first comments?
The remains of the standing wall. Oh, okay. So it was more than a wall. There's a little concrete building standing there. And I just wanted clarification of what was going to remain versus what they were going to knock down. So there's a little concrete building and there is a little slab. And according to Mr. Stevens, they're going to stay. So I was just fixing the word wall and it will remain, and that it was a building, not a wall. That's it.
Great. Thank you, Marcia. If anybody is not comfortable with those changes, let us know.
May I accept the changes? Are there any objections? In the approved minutes document, may I accept those changes?
Yes.
Go ahead, Melissa. And then scrolling down to item 6 on the agenda, which was editing our agenda request form. Marcia again made some comments.
Yeah, that one was a little more, I think Kathleen lost something, or it didn't go through clearly or something. And to me, it was a little more important. And that is that the reason we were changing a simple word on the dating and the timing or whatever, the submission timing. But the most important thing I thought we were doing to that was to, in fact, add a specific instruction asking people to give us the reason that they're coming on the agenda. So I want to make it clear that we talked about telling people to tell us what they want. And that way we'd be prepared at our meeting for what it was they were going to ask.
Thank you, Marcia. Anybody have any objections to including that in the minutes? Alrighty, Melissa, go ahead and accept those changes, please. Any other comments on the minutes from September 21st?
And I'm just going to state for the record that I'm doing those changes in the copy document that y'all know becomes, if it's approved, theoretically, the approved document. So just so you guys know, I'm making the changes in the other document so you don't see them live there.
Great. Okay.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as corrected, please.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All right, all in favor of approving the meeting minutes from September 21st with the amendments, say aye.
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 Okay, none opposed. Motion passes unanimously. Thanks, everybody. Okay. Next, we'll open up the portion of the agenda for public citizens to be heard. Folks can have up to 3 minutes to make a public comment. Would anybody like to say a public comment? You can either verbally notify me or raise your hand if you're on the video function. Going once, going twice. Okay. The public citizen comment period of the meeting is closed. So we will move on to the old business portion of the agenda. And Luann, we'd love to start with an update from Town Council with what's relevant to planning and zoning.
Alrighty. We've just had one meeting since the last time you all were together, and that was last night. And we do have that disconnect piece of property up on the Bluff Bench, and the hearing for that, the public hearing will be December 1st, is what's tentatively planned at least. It sounds like that meets everybody's agenda or their schedule, so it'll be a public hearing here in Bluff for that piece up on the Bluff Bench. Just of interest, maybe the AV equipment up at the community center, trying to decide whether that's rentable or not with the community center, and whether it comes with a techie, and whether they could like use all of our fancy equipment and stream things out to other groups that maybe would rent it and that kind of thing. So we'll discuss that again next week. We did sign the contract with Pathways, which is this strategic planning group. So we'll start that pretty soon. Erin got us started. We had our first introductory kind of brainstorming session, a work session, and got us started on that. So we have a good place to begin with the Pathways group. We're also deciding whether NetForce or State of Utah for our addresses and for who we go through for all of our protection on our devices, and like P&Z would switch over addresses and whatnot if we do that kind of thing. So that's somewhat of your concern. Nothing has changed yet, but Erin's been researching that and making sure we have what we need and not more than what we need. So then the CCC team, which was Sayers and Mayor Ann, they met with the USDA, Michelle Weaver. She's the new director of the state of Utah for USDA, and they talked about possible grants, and she's really interested in this part of the country, and it's been underserved and not a whole lot done with from the USDA. So they had a meeting and discussed that a little bit. The two things that probably most interesting to you all is on Tuesday morning, we'll have a work session with the final little work session through with the town council on the lighting ordinance, and then set to vote on that Tuesday night was the initial plan last night. And then that would move it towards the designation process. And then the one that also came up was the zoning code 6.01.090, if I remember correctly. Anyway, it's on whether or not the single residence stays in the commercial, or if we want to expand it to all residential. The town council voted 4-1 to go ahead and let the general residential apartments, duplexes, triplexes, whatever, mixed in with the commercial. So that went on, excuse me, last night. And Erin, you were there also. I did this kind of quickly. Is there anything else that you think that, everything else, like the alley question got tabled? Was there anything else?
I think that's a pretty good summation of, I mean, it's always busy, but yeah, that's good.
Okay.
It looks like Marcia has a question.
Okay.
I do, Luann, just for clarification. It no longer will say single family dwelling in the zoning code for commercial. It will say residential dwelling, just because it can be any size. Is that an official change that has taken effect, or is there another step to doing it?
As far as I know, it's just, it was voted in that we were advised that we didn't need to do any more public hearings. We talked about it. You guys had advised. We basically rescinded our first vote and then put it up for vote again. And all but one of us changed their minds. So anyway, yeah. I was the dissenting one, and you all know my reasons for mixing commercial with residential and vice versa. But it did pass. I thought it was a good time for a variance, but it did pass, and residential can be anywhere in commercial.
Yeah, and because it is because it's not more restrictive, that's why it didn't need to go back to public hearing. It opened things up essentially. When we're passing things that are more restrictive, of course, those have to go to public hearing. And the ordinance on the website, nor on Muni Docs, is updated yet, but I will get that done in the next week or so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, and we did announce that you were the new chair, and we do have a new. The old chair is now got a congratulations to the baby. So, yeah, but anyway, and we did announce that there's a vacancy.
Yeah, that appointment is going to go hopefully to this next meeting, but given that we have a little bit of time, we just had a lot on our agenda last night. But Malia's recommendation should go before the council next week.
Great, thank you. I know that item 3 on our agenda is another update on Planning and Zoning Commission vacancy if there's more to be said. So
Okay.
awesome. Thank you both so much for the update.
All right. You're welcome.
Let's move on to item 2 under old business, which is the final review and approval of our site plan application form. So as a reminder, this is something we've been working on for a while. Thank you, Marcia. That's required in our zoning code if you would like to submit an application for a site level 1 or level 2 site plan, which is, a development of a larger scale, say several residential units or commercial units. So I'm going to share this document, and first we outline the different levels of applications. The language is largely taken from our zoning code. Then we talk about how to submit the application form. The first thing I noted was we put the website, the direct link in here to the zoning ordinance, and I suggest we just put townofbluff.org in case the URL changes. I wonder what folks thought about that.
That makes sense.
Anybody opposed to that? All right, let's go ahead and accept that. Melissa, do you mind making the final changes?
Yep. Want it in this document?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
So just for this one, I'm deleting the highlighted piece there and just inserting townofbluff.org just to be.
Yeah.
Thanks. Will do.
Next, then throughout the document, there's we have a lot of different requirements of different numbers of copies of the forms of the application and of related reports. So I thought we should just talk more broadly what number we want. I believe the ordinance says 4 copies of this actual form should be submitted. So we said in here, we specified, first it said multiple, then I said maybe we should put 6. I'm wondering if we should be consistent and write 4 throughout it to be consistent with the ordinance. What do you all think?
I agree, Amanda, in terms of saying less is more nowadays based on the digital world. I think that you always do need to file a paper copy or whatever the office is going to be doing so we have continuity. But once we go back to meetings in person, there may need to be some change of that in terms of how we see the documents. But until then, I think less is more. So I don't know quite if we need 4 even of paper documents, but we definitely don't need more, I guess is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. And 4 is what's in the zoning code, so we may not be able to change it. We may not be able to make it less, but Melissa or Ed, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, thank you. I agree with Marcia, and I think we have to go by what's written in the ordinance at this point. So I would go with that for consistency. But also, if ever that does change in the ordinance, we'll have to remember to change it in this document, in this form. So just like a heads up to the future people doing the work. But I would say that we should be compliant with our own ordinance.
Okay. Would you mind changing that to 4, Melissa? Then I'm going to keep scrolling down. Next, we have like a check the box for what is required in the application. Project location and landowner information. a note of when this is due. I just did some, then on the next page is the fees calculation. And this was taken from another site application form that Marcia found. So I suggest that as a commission, we recommend this to the town council, and they can, of course, reject this fee calculation section or create their own fee schedule. But this essentially plans out fees based on residential and non-residential site plans. Erin, go ahead.
In your recommendation to town council, if you are able to share how, or essentially where you got it and how those figures would be calculated, it's important in municipal management that we're not making any money off of this. It would strictly be the cost of performing this. So if you have any of that background, that's great. Otherwise, if you can just put a few notes as to where you got it and how those calculations were tabulated, that would be very helpful.
Oh, great idea. Marcia, do you remember which town you got this form from?
Oh, sure. I knew you would say that. I tell you what, I'm putting on my paperwork here that I'm going to do a little homework for who I copied, and whatever, or get you a couple of samples, Erin, and I will direct it to you and copy you, Amanda, just to show you, a couple of fee calculations, because I agree with you. Just find a couple of samples and then make it work for Bluff. And I do understand that we must not use this as a for-profit moment. However, my suggestion is that we think of ourselves as a building department, and building departments need some money. So in other words, don't just be, it's only $5 because we're just going to make copies. It's an actual fee for for using a building inspector and because eventually all those things will come to us.
Absolutely. No, that's completely accurate. And in our current, discussions about fees, we think about the hours being spent, how many people, and as soon as we start adding people, it gets much more expensive. Thank you, Marcia.
Okay, I will do some homework, hopefully in the morning, and email you, Erin, if that's okay.
And I did strike the section on a public hearing fee because our ordinance does not require a public hearing for a site plan application. So if y'all are comfortable with this, I would recommend we accept these changes, strike that whole paragraph about public hearing, and then let the town council review this.
Just to clarify, I agree with you if we don't have a public hearing, but would this be applicable, and now I'm confusing myself, would this be applicable at the time of a subdivision, for example, when then you might need a public hearing? Do we have a subdivision application?
We do have a subdivision application.
Okay, so separate, and therefore if that had a hearing, it would be that way. Okay, never mind. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna keep scrolling.
Chair, can you stay on the document for while I accept some of these changes and people can see how it reads?
Sure.
So with your permission, I'll start accepting, especially the easy ones that are just like formatting. And as we're watching, I know it's really simple. Anybody could do this right now, but how do people feel about what they're seeing so far? Is this reading the right way? Still bringing the right information here? We can fix that parentheses.
Oh, I think this line we delete.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's fix that one. How do we want that to read? Just delete the parentheses and
Or delete that whole line. That was part of the site or the public hearing piece.
Delete completely?
Yeah.
Okay. How does that look to folks?
Looks good to me. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I think it looks good because it's the sample of what we're talking about, and then Erin can use it with hopefully a couple of notes I can find to see if that's what the town wants to recommend.
Great. All right, thanks, Melissa. So scrolling down, We have a checklist of the submittal requirements that are from Marcia. Is this directly from our ordinance? Do you remember?
Marcia, you're muted.
I should be. I'm going to look for just a second. No, submittal requirements. Submittal requirements. I opened right to it. Acres, uses, types, lots, plots. Interior walls. I think I just did the, okay, drainage. Utility. Wastewater. I think what I did was take the titles of what these are, and then you would go in and read the specifics of what they do.
Okay.
So I believe I took it site plan, preliminary site plan. Parking. Floor plan and elevation. I believe it matches ours, but we might have to double check that. Like, does it say landscaping plan? Yes, it does. I think this is the titles of what we tell people we need. Then they have to look in here to find out what those are.
Okay.
So that makes sense.
So my question here is, do we want to make all those numbers 4 as our ordinance says, or for something that has to be 24 by 36 inches, do we want to make that like 2, or I don't know?
I think just 2, because once again, the paperwork aspect of what we're looking at in this should end up being what's for the office as opposed to what we need in hand, kind of thing.
Exactly.
So if Erin, who's been working most closely with paper, believes that in filing things, there's a planning and zoning file that would need a copy, and then there is a building department file, and Erin's looking, yeah, I'm not sure. So I think 2 would do it, but that's kind of up to you guys. In the meantime, I would tell you that I don't know that every single one of our little titles, grading, is on here. So, well, that's more of a,
Do we want to? We could table it and come to it at the next meeting, since I don't think there's anybody waiting on this application form.
no, keep talking while I look.
Okay.
Chair, may I offer an idea?
Go ahead, please.
I guess 2 things come to mind. One is the storage of those documents, and I guess that would be at least at today, like, or right now, Erin to weigh in on if those kind of dimensions of paper, we have a place and a way to store them. More importantly, as far as it relates to planning and zoning, especially as we're meeting virtually, how we can get those documents scanned or available to commissioners, especially in a virtual format. The work we've done has been a lot of it online. We've had all of our like land use clearance and all the work we've been doing. We've been able to scan those into our Google Drive. So just like trying to figure out what's the best way for us to, as commissioners, especially if we're meeting virtually, to access that information. And if it's submitted to us in that format, 24 by 36 inches, how do we scan that in? So idea 1 is to also include like an 8.5 by 11 size of those plans as requested. But if folks feel like that doesn't make sense in any way, I'm just trying to come up with a solution that can also help those who look at this virtually. That said, too, there's at least 3 dimensions of papers that we're asking for here. So the 8.5 by 11, the 11 by 17, and then the 24 by 36. So just looking at consistency, I'm not trying to say I know the answer. I'm just saying what's the easiest for the office, what's the easiest for the people who are submitting this, and then that all ties into us getting the information we need. So just raising that and happy to do what the commission needs.
If I might answer for 1 second, Melissa, I agree with you. It's odd because there are so many different requirement stuff. I can just tell you from millennia years of experience of receiving packets that when you receive a packet from a developer, it is typically paperwork of different sizes. And that's just how it is, because Blueprint would come on the big stuff or something else might come smaller. So you're right. It's kind of one of those pain in the butt kind of things. And in particular, because of our digital life, there may be some question to that. But just from years of experience, I would say it's not up to us to worry about, which size their documents come through.
One suggestion is that we remove the size requirements and just know that it might come in different forms. And
that's not bad. I like that. Yeah.
So what if we changed all the numbers to 4 copies to be consistent with our above text and then removed the size requirements?
I like that. And Melissa's thumb is getting tired because she's so right. She likes it
Okay,
so much.
yeah.
And I think that speaks to sort of the options available to people who are doing this work, right? Maybe there's a standard in like very professional or commercial circles, but I think there are other ways to get the job done. And I think more than anything, we as the town of Bluff, we as the commission, Planning and Zoning Commission, should be just saying what's going to work for us the best. Of course, the town can weigh in on this, but like the town council can weigh in on this. But I just think like what's the easiest for us to make this work. So with your approval, I will change the 6s to 4s, and then all of the 3s. Do we want those still to be 4s or 2s, and then remove all the paper size? Am I hearing that correctly?
Yes, but is it 2 sets of everything? Why don't we just leave it 3? Because it's not 4. And Erin, do you have anything to weigh in just on what you've lately been doing with paper?
All the paper. For the purposes of organization, I would like to see at least one printed copy that would go into your files, and then one additional copy that could be scanned or passed around or whatever. Past that, I have no preference. So 2 or greater would probably be my ask.
What if we do 2 and take the sizes off? I think that answers everything we just said.
Yeah, that sounds good.
With one consideration, Amanda did mention 4 as listed in the ordinance, though.
Well, we asked for 4 copies of the application form, I think. So I think if we're asking for 4 applications, we might as well ask for 4 narratives. But for the things that might be of larger scale size, it might be more expensive for the applicant. I think 2 seems appropriate because then we have 1 to scan and 1 for storage, as Erin said.
I'm sorry to interrupt, except to answer this, there's a couple of things I'm reading this, our existing ordinance from my notebook, actual paper here, and I'm noticing things like, for example, preliminary site plan needs to be drawn by an engineer to a scale of not less than 1 inch equals 50 feet on paper, no larger than 24 by 36, and 1 copy reduced to 11 by 17. So, Melissa, I think yay! So I think what the deal is if we take off this stuff here and we say 2 sets of stuff, and then we take off the sizing, it's our actual code ordinance that will tell them what to do. Okay. Yeah. And we won't have to worry. So I think perhaps I was using something that already existed with those numbers on it. So we're good. Thank you, Melissa. The good catch.
Thanks, Marcia. Alrighty. The next piece that I recommended striking was, I think, from the form that Marcia borrowed, which was mailing labels. We require the applicant to notify all adjacent landowners of this application. And so I I don't think we need to require mailing labels because we're asking them to do that themselves.
Agreed.
And then there was another redundant sentence down there that Melissa struck. With that, I think we can entertain approving this site plan application form.
Can I just confirm with you that I have the correct numbers there in the submittal requirements checklist? If I accept those suggestions, that's correct then? 4 and 4, and then 2 is the rest of the way down?
That looks correct. Yes.
Okay, I'll accept it.
Okay. Any final comments on this form?
I move to approve the application for site plan review to be added to our planning and zoning application or forms and as amended. Wait, yes, as amended.
Second.
Any discussion?
Go ahead, Amanda. What did I
I
mess up?
Well, I would suggest that we recommend it to the town council.
Oh,
to
right.
do the fee schedule.
Sorry, you're right. Do you want me to put that in there? That's just housekeeping, right? Or do you want me to
Yes.
say we approve it for the town council approval? We recommend it to, I know. Okay. I would withdraw the way I stated my first
I
motion,
say-
please.
Second agrees.
Go ahead, Melissa. You have another part.
I just thought of something. I believe in our other documents, we haven't put a fee schedule in the document. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm happy to stand corrected. We just said like, see the fee schedule. So just checking in with the commission on that, if I'm remembering that right. But further, if that's how we want this document to read, as if we're setting fees, and I understand that we're recommending it as the council to decide to actually approve fees, but noting that for our other consistency.
Mhm. Go ahead, Marcia.
Well, I think you're right, Melissa. We haven't, but the key to this is we should be. In other words, the fees can go into the forms as soon as the town approves them. So what I like, Melissa, is leaving that there, the section we just cleaned up, that fees calculation, and saying that what we approve, when I make my motion correctly and we present this to the town, I will include the idea with the settling the proper fee schedule, so that it's on there. Because I think all forms should have that connected to it.
Okay. Aaron, go ahead.
Yeah, and the great news is the town is a lot closer to having other documents which are going to be requiring fees in the very near future. So this is actually a really appropriate time in which to include them. So we appreciate the consideration.
Great. Okay, so we had an amended motion. We had a second from Mr. Dobson. We had a discussion. Any further discussion?
Did I present I think what I did was withdraw my improperly stated motion.
Okay, go ahead and restate.
Right, and Ed was kind enough to take the second away as well. So to state a motion for voting is, I move to approve the site plan form for recommendation to town council with the inclusion of their update to the final fee calculation as amended this evening.
Second that.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, I believe, Ed, I believe you said aye. Did you say aye, Ed?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right, motion passes unanimously. Thanks, everybody. Aaron, would you like me to send this to town council, or would you like to do that? I'm happy to do it.
I can take, it's just in your Google Drive, right?
Yeah.
Yep, I can take it off of there. And then if you'd like, I can add the fillable form if we want to move forward with that. It does not change the substance or format, just makes it easier for people to fill out online.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
You got it.
Okay. Up next, item 3 on the agenda is a Planning and Zoning Commission vacancy update. As was mentioned earlier, we do have a vacancy on the commission. If anybody is interested in applying, please see the town website for details or contact Aaron. It sounds like the town council is going to be voting on Malia Collins's appointment to the commission at their next meeting. Any other updates, Erin or Luann?
Just at the next meeting, they'll also talk about that open position and how they would like to move forward with filling it. That was briefly discussed in last night's meeting, but they'd like to have a more thorough discussion as to, a 4 versus 5 member commission if they were not to get another applicant. But yes, if people are interested, please, 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 please apply.
And the other thing was they're trying to bump up Malia's entry instead of waiting till January so that you would have a full council.
Great. Okay. All right. Anything else from folks?
Another thing that I said at the council meeting last night was that you are also short of advisors. So if people were out of town, living out of the area or something and wanted to be an advisor, are you all still, Marcia's saying, no, you're not doing advice?
I thought, and I'm sorry, I'm shaking my head. I thought we discussed, and Amanda and Melissa have been doing this longer. I thought we discussed that the idea of the advisors was in the initial stages of writing everything. They had extra people helping research what to write and where to find it. Somewhat like I just did the site form where I find,
okay.
So I just didn't think we were doing it, but I'm going to shut up and let Amanda and Melissa bring it up to date.
Well, that's why I'm asking, because I know we haven't had any, and so if that's not correct, I will correct it at the next one.
I believe that was our latest decision, was that we're no longer in need of advisors because we're past, as Marcia said. If you want to be an advisor, consider being a commissioner.
Yeah, it'd be for the people that weren't residents, kind of thing. But yeah, okay, very good.
Alrighty. Okay. Moving on to the new business portion of our agenda, we have a land use clearance from Andy Martin to consider. Thank you, Andy, so much for waiting for us, patiently for us to get to this part of the agenda. So we're considering Andrew Martin's request for a land use clearance for 680 West Main Street. I am going to share my screen, though it's sideways. So we will do our best to review that sideways. Oh, that's the wrong one. So Andrea, would you like to give us a quick overview of narrative of your land use clearance application? I'm not sure if you're able to speak right now. Okay, not being able to hear her.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, we can hear you. Yep.
Okay, sorry, my screen froze on my iPad. So, yeah, we're just taking out the old kitchen cabinets because they were damaged, and we're replacing them with the exact same cabinets. So the layout of the kitchen won't change. In the mobile home, there was vinyl sheet flooring that got torn. So then there was some carpeting that was replaced with substandard flooring. So we're just taking all that out and installing vinyl plank flooring. See what else is on there. We're gonna paint the building to match the other buildings on property. I'm sorry, I don't have my sheet in front of me. Most of it is repair. Trying to think if there's any remodel component to it other than the painting. Oh, we're installing a heat pump, mini split instead of the window AC. Do you have the list in front of you?
We do. So it says paint exterior, replace exterior window trim, replace vinyl sheet flooring, replace damaged kitchen cabinets, paint interior, replace damaged interior trim, replace damaged kitchen appliances, and install mini split. So it sounds like there's
Yeah.
nothing external or even structural in this application. Is that correct?
There's nothing structural. The only external is to paint the outside of the building to match the other buildings on property.
Great.
And then we might put some exterior window trim up, but that's it. Nothing structural.
Okay.
Most of it is repair from the damage done the last 5 years of occupancy.
Okay. Thank you. Looks like Marcia has a question. Go ahead, Marcia.
No, actually, I just have a comment that it sounds like it's going to be really nice when it's done. So it's just, moving on up, as the song said. But unless there are other comments from the commissioners, I don't see anything out of the ordinary or anything to stop this from happening.
Melissa or Ed, any comments or questions?
Nope.
I would move to approve the land use clearances presented by Andrea Martin for the improvements at their mobile home, or whatever it's called. I guess it's called a house.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion from folks? I wanted to note in the discussion that we require land use clearances for remodels or construction of buildings of this size, and we define in our zoning code remodel as a structural change. So I don't actually.
Actually, I did not see that. It's very ambiguous, and in your definitions, there is no. I'd have to look at your P&Z document. There's in one of your definitions, it doesn't say structural.
I'll pull up the remodel one really fast.
And when I remember I asked Ed about this a long time ago. You really need to define the word remodel. I don't even think that's defined, but it was like any, because you don't define remodel. And then Ed had mentioned to me that it's purposely left ambiguous.
Oh, well, so I'm sharing our current zoning code that was amended in May, and we define remodel as undergoing a structural change. And I say this just to say that I actually don't know that you need a land use clearance for this project, because it doesn't sound like you're doing anything structural in nature. I think we can go ahead and approve it because we don't want to stop your process at all. But in the future, I think it's good to come before us to see if you need a land use clearance, but I'm not sure there was one necessary in this case, was my add to the discussion.
I would agree, but I thought for sure when I looked at your zoning, unless it wasn't updated on the website, the word remodel wasn't defined.
That's exactly.
Structural change.
And Andrea, I would agree with you. This is Marcia. And Amanda, I think we had the problem of old versus new, because sure enough, I'm looking at my notebook copy, and my notebook copy is the old one, and there's no word remodel. So I did exactly what Andrea did. I looked up her LUC and said, oh, it says remodel. So she gave us one. And now I agree completely with you, Amanda, that she didn't need one because of our update. So Andy, you did exactly right for what was going on at the time. And welcome to the new world. We fixed it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
I'm sorry. I'm just trying
no, it's
to
good.
navigate through this.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing, Andrea. It's like you did more than you had to, and we're so excited to tell you that you did it right and it worked. So,
Yeah. A plus on a very thorough form and everything, and for coming to us.
Okay.
I think we can go ahead and bring it to a vote and approve it, but yeah. So all in favor of approving the land use clearance, say aye.
Absolutely. Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
So for, oh, sorry. So for
One second,
future-
Andrea. Andrea, 1 second. Melissa, did you want to vote? Aye. Okay, we have 4 ayes, no nays. The land use clearance passes. Andrea, go ahead.
Any addition or remodel, I'm just looking at LUC definition. Remodel isn't defined. Remodel. Okay, you did change it.
Aha.
Need to undergo a structural change. Okay, so I must have been working off of your old document.
Okay. Well, sorry
So
about that.
my apologies for wasting all your time.
Not
so-
at all.
Now the question is though, are you going to send this land use clearance up to the county?
Yeah, I will still. I'll sign it and get you a copy. I can send it to the county, but I can let them know that your remodel is non-structural in nature.
Okay, because they still might require me to get a permit because it is it's a commercial property.
They might, yeah. So I'll do that tomorrow, and I'll send you a copy and the county a copy.
Okay, great. Okay. Oh, my apologies. I was working off old material, but regardless, I think I need a county permit. So this just facilitates that. So anyhow, well, thank you very much. I'm so sorry about that. I'm glad it's specified now, though.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Andrea,
Super.
Andrea, just as a last sentence, if I might, we actually thank you because this is the way we find the weird little things that we miss. So thank you for doing double duty and have fun doing your remodel.
You're sweet. Thank you so much, Marcia. All righty. I'm going to try to figure out how to mute myself now. I don't know how to do that on the phone. I had to turn on the phone to hear the volume on Google Meet. So anyhow. All right. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Have a nice evening.
You too.
Alrighty. We're always learning as a commission. Item 2 under new business is update on a potential RV ordinance. I believe all the commission saw, and just for the record, I emailed the town lawyer about drafting a RV ordinance for the town. It sounded like he was leaning towards code changes, and he said he could help with that, but he wanted more specificity from us. So, for example, are we looking to limit the number of vehicles parked on a property? Are we looking to limit number of time you live in an RV? Are we looking to limit like abandoned RVs on properties? So I think we do need to give him more specifics. I'm curious if we want to brainstorm those tonight or do that as homework. I also would suggest that if we begin brainstorming, that we share the list with the town council before we send to Chris, so that we're not doing, we're not proposing something that they're going to veto, essentially. Marcia, go ahead.
I think it's a perfect assignment for a homework list from each of us to put on the next agenda that says, what do we want to use? And maybe just everyone, could we Google Doc it? I don't know how.
Okay.
Like start a list and put it on Google Docs and everybody contribute to it.
Yeah,
So who's going to start the list?
I can do that.
Okay. So over the next few days, if you were to have a list on there, then we could go to it and just keep going. And it would just be a running thought process of what we want to do. Okay, cool.
How does that sound, Melissa and Ed, that process? Melissa, go ahead.
I'm just going to bring the table, and I know it requires more work, and I already feel like Marcia's going to say something like, but we're in the position to do the thing. So I hear you already, Marcia, and I respect you for the thoughts I already think that you think. This feels like a really important issue in our town and in making sure people have housing. And I'm wondering if there's a way to like easily, whatever that means, gather thoughts, feedback, brainstorm from the community, both like folks who run RV parks and folks who want 3 RVs in their yard and folks who want 0. I don't know that I don't have the capacity to run that right now, but I'm just like kind of throwing it out there. Like, is there a way to solicit, I guess, like the opinions and perspectives of our community on this topic? And I don't have the capacity to do that right now, but just saying this seems pretty important.
Melissa, if I could just point out, because you knew I was going to, there's going to be a public hearing for us to change ordinance. So there, you're going to get, if we could lay out a listing of what we want, and Chris says, wow, that's a lot, you should have an RV ordinance. Or if Chris says, oh, that's just a fix to what you already have. Either way, it requires public hearing to change ordinance. So you're absolutely right. We want to hear about it, and we will in the process. Because I agree with you. This could be a hairy subject.
I guess the question is, do we want to have a public hearing before we draft an ordinance and then have a second public hearing? We could do that. Or we could draft something, run it by town council, then have a public hearing.
I think we should get a list going and get organized enough to know what it is we're presenting. Because if all we end up with is a list that says only 2 RVs, then we're not getting anywhere. You know, we're not changing much. But if our list goes kind of as long as we seem to think it will go, then we're actually going to end up with some information. So I propose that we have some working thoughts to put out there to see if we need a hearing to get a hearing.
Okay. So let's work on that document over homework. I will create the document, circulate that. And at the next meeting, we can discuss next steps, which may include having a extra public hearing. So
I like that, because then we'll know if it's a big deal or a little deal.
yeah. Wonderful. Okay. Anything else on the RV ordinance? Okay. Item 3 under new business is the dark sky ordinance. And apologies, I misstated the intention of this agenda item. Essentially, last week, Anne and former chair Sarah Burek met with John Barentine to go over the latest version of the Bluff dark sky ordinance and went over some questions. That meeting negated the need to have John Barentine attend this meeting and speak with us. So the latest is that town council is going to have a meeting next Tuesday and then consider approving it next Tuesday's meeting. It sounds like there's 2 outstanding questions we could briefly address this evening regarding the dark sky ordinance. The first is the total number of lumen allowance in the lighting zones. And the second is enforcement. So I thought I would just really quickly share my screen to show the latest version. First, we'll start with the lumen allowance. And if we would like, we could submit some formal recommendations to town council via email or via Aaron or Luann. But so this is the current version 2 of this lighting ordinance, has lighting zones. The first one, LZ0, has our agricultural zones. It has 0 lumen allowance per acre. And then LZ1 is our commercial, factory, industrial, and residential zones, and those have scaled amounts of lumens. So wondered if folks had any comments. I do have a particular thought, but see if anybody wants to go first. Marcia, go ahead.
And you can go first. I don't care. I think my comment would be that, and it's just a comment, I'm not quite sure where it goes. It was very difficult to get to 5,000 residential because I have 2 houses on my lot and I had to add and subtract a lot, and I'm not good at that. So basically, I'm just throwing out there 5,000 is probably correct for a residential home, and it is only my lot that became a problem because I have 2 residences. But you can do it. And the new lighting even at the Home Depots do have all that information right on the packaging for us. However, so residential, I think we're pretty close. That's just a comment. Then the only other comment is, I believe that the commercial lots know best whether these have been the right numbers for them. And I think someone like Diana, for example, had put together a list and whatever. So if these numbers are coming off some of the things that people said after the lighting ordinance was put up, then I believe we're fine. And that we have to, and we may have to do all this to find out if we're fine or not.
Okay.
I know that's kind of a nebulous.
So to sum that up, you think the residential is appropriate, it's challenging, but it's doable, and that the commercial needs to have had input from commercial businesses.
Which it did. I mean, we got this is already passed. So I think one of the problems is some of this is going to have to happen in order for us to know if it works for where and how we live.
Thank you. Melissa or Ed, any comments on this?
Yeah, I'd just like to ask for clarification. I'm sorry if you said it and I missed it, but were these numbers suggested by Dr. Barentine, or were these numbers suggested from the community members or folks who've weighed in? I'm sorry I missed that.
I don't know the latest, if the numbers have been adjusted from his first version. Aaron, do you know that? Yeah, I guess we can't answer that, Melissa. Initially, he proposed the numbers, and the red indicates it's required, I believe, but the yellow was his suggestions.
Okay, I'll just follow up and say that unless we're seeing it in practice, like in application, I would like to go with like the lumen allowance per developed acre, based on like kind of like the science or best practices, however we're going to call that. And if that comes from Dr. Barentine, awesome. But I think even more applicable is what our community members are saying, and especially if we're seeing the what they've installed and it being compliant and it being dark skies and it feels good too. I think that's another indicator too.
Thanks, Melissa. What I wanted to note, and if you all agree, I think we should share this with the town council. We have several, essentially in our zoning code in A2 and A3, we allow development, and we have some A2 parcels right in the middle of town, and they currently are allowed 0 lumen per developed acre. So I would strongly recommend that we suggest that council change that. A2, again, there's some residences, some farms that are A2, and A3 is for like recreational areas like campsites and stuff, and those may need lighting for safety. So I don't think it's appropriate for A2 and A3 to have 0 allotted lumens. So I don't know if the council agrees with, or the commission agrees with me, but
Yes, for sure.
I do too.
Okay.
That's
Would
a
you all
good
be-
catch. And I'm not sure what those numbers are, but there's got to be, I agree with Melissa, if it came from Dr. Barentine, then he too must have for example, campground lighting amount or something like that to put in. So perhaps Erin and Luann, when you go back to council and they're ready to do it, you could say that that's something that we realized that our agricultural places are allowed to have some habitation or whatever and need some lighting. Good catch, Amanda.
So to confirm, that's A2 and A3, not anything in A1, however. Is that correct?
correct. I believe A1 is open space. Yeah.
Excellent. I can definitely ensure that your recommendation is stated to town council.
Great. Thank you, Erin. The second piece that they asked us if we had any thoughts on was enforcement. So let me go to that part of the document. This is where this has been the controversial piece, in which we say or propose it. I think he didn't propose any changes where the town can enforce this and a private citizen can enforce this chapter as well. An affected property owner can bring action to enforce this chapter. So if we as a commission agree on a recommendation regarding this, we can set that forth to the town council. If we don't agree on a recommendation, then I personally don't have any thoughts towards this. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share?
I do, Amanda.
Go ahead,
I
Marcia.
would like to say that this is not Texas. This is not a place where we turn our neighbors in for taking a ride to a clinic. This is not a place where we tell our neighbors to sue a neighbor. I believe that people will sue anyone, anytime, anywhere by choice, and the judge gets to decide if it's a case or not. But I completely disagree with having a town ordinance remind our neighbors to sue their neighbor. I would like to see D removed.
Okay, thank you, Marcia. Melissa or Ed, any thoughts on that, on item D?
Madam Chair, I love item D. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Melissa, any thoughts from you?
I appreciate Marcia's analysis and agree 100%. I would, knowing that there's some dissension here among the ranks, I would just suggest that we let town council weigh in on this. But my leaning is towards removing text that reminds people to sue each other.
Okay. Perhaps with two in favor and of removing it, Ed for keeping it, I'm abstaining. Perhaps Aaron, you could share with the town council that there were some concerns about item D. But
So the way that I'll state it is that there was discussion during the planning and zoning meeting regarding item D. There are strong opinions about this. Because it will be discussed during a work session, the town will not take public comment during that meeting. However, since planning and zoning is not putting forth a formal recommendation, I suppose I would encourage those who feel strongly to either email the town, and here they're going to yell at me, be like, go talk to the town. But you can either email the town, or you could make a public comment during the regular town council meeting at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, if you felt inclined. But I will just say it was discussed. This is something that the town council will, need to resolve. So.
okay. Thank you, Aaron. Is the commission comfortable with that? Okay, great. Alrighty. Well, thanks everybody for sharing your final thoughts on this dark sky ordinance, which gets us on our way to becoming a dark sky town. We're a little after 7, so apologies for going over, but let's finish up with items for the next agenda on October 19th. So far, let's see, I have, we have a land use, Steve Simpson has an agenda request. We'll have the RV discussion. I would like to discuss chair responsibilities while I'm out of town for the next meeting in November. What else would folks like on the agenda for the next meeting?
I just have a housekeeping question. If you know you're going to be gone in November, excuse me, is it possible to cancel a meeting if we don't have anybody's land? In other words, if we said at the next October meeting, I'm sorry, we are in advance canceling X meeting due to almost lack of quorum or something. So I'm just asking for clarification for what you'd like to do. I mean, we can do it if there is 3 of us is a quorum, and there would be, but it may behoove us not to, because, you know, if there's nothing quite decidable, that I'm just throwing it out there.
Maybe we could discuss that at that next meeting. I mean, I would suggest if we have a land use clearance that you still meet, but if, yeah. So let's discuss that at next meeting once we have a better sense of what's on the radar for November. Cancellation of. Okay. Any other possible agenda items from folks?
No, I think we're good.
Alrighty. Well, with that, under any other business this evening?
Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right. Thank you. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Can we say bye instead of?
All right. Thanks, everybody. Meeting adjourned at 7:08 p.m. Hope you all have a wonderful evening. Nice to see you.